Well, I recently found this amazing bargain buy. This awesome Hamer guitar with nary a scratch on it. I think it's from the late 90s. I'm going to talk all about this model and a little brief history of Hamer guitars in general. That's what we're doing today on Ray Plays Guitar. Let's get into it. Back in the day, I remember the name Hamer being on everyone's headstock. From Andy Summers, Rick Nielsen, of course. He had some crazy Hamer guitars. The guys from Judas Priest, I see them in magazines all the time with their Hamer guitars. But virtually everybody, Vernon Reid, and just a whole slew of players and a whole diverse group of players were playing Hamer guitars. Hamer Guitars is a company that was started by Paul Hamer and Joel Danzig. Hamer Guitars is pretty much the original boutique guitar company. They started off making really great Gibson-style guitars. They started with an Explorer and a V-type model. Before Paul started making his own guitars, he was running a repair shop, and I believe his shop was the first Gibson-authorized repair shop outside of Kalamazoo, Michigan. So he kind of knew his way around the Gibson stuff. So it's no wonder that his first guitars were Gibson-style guitars. Another interesting thing about Paul Hamer is that his dad was an attorney in Illinois. And Paul got kicked out of school for having his hair too long. So Paul's dad sued the school for like millions of dollars. And at the same time, he was also running for Illinois State's attorney. Well, he lost the state's attorney race, but he won the lawsuit against the school. He didn't get all the millions of dollars that he wanted, but as a direct result of that lawsuit, all schools across the country dropped their dress codes. And so now girls were allowed to wear pants and boys were allowed to wear their hair long. So you got Paul Hamer and his long hair and his attorney dad to thank for all of that. Another little interesting factoid about Paul Hamer is that Paul used to give guitar lessons when he was still a teenager, and one of his students was Dean Zielinski, fellow Chicago guitar builder. So I just thought that was interesting. And Hamer was making excellent, high quality guitars, much higher quality than what was coming out of Gibson and Fender at the time. And so all throughout the mid and late 70s and throughout the 80s, Hamer pretty much became a household name among guitar players. Now, I'm not sure what happened internally with the company, but I remember, I think it was 87 or 88. I was working at Guitar Center on the south side of Chicago on 95th Street. I was just a teenager at the time. We had sales meetings every morning, and it came to our attention that Paul Hamer was now working at Guitar Center. I think he was working at the north side store on Milwaukee Avenue. There was only 2 locations in Chicago at that time. Yeah, I guess he got ousted from his company, and he came aboard Guitar Center as a salesman. And and he would outsell like everybody. We'd have the sales meetings in the morning and be like, "Okay, everybody, you got to step up your game." Paul Hamer sold more than all the other salespeople in the entire 2 stores put together yesterday. So needless to say, he didn't stay a salesman too long. He worked up very quickly, and then he got out. I don't know what happened to him. But I was never sure what exactly happened to Hamer at that time when Paul was sort of forced out of that company. But I could tell you what happened to Hamer after that was they started building guitars overseas. And they had an export line. I think they had the Slammer series and the XT series. And I'm not too familiar with the quality of those. I think the XTs are a little better than the Slammers, but from what I've read online, people seem to like those. Hamer continued to build guitars in the United States. I actually had a USA Hamer back in the day. I had it was an Archtop double cutaway with P90s, and I really liked that guitar. But what I never liked about the Slammers or the XTs was they always said XT on there, or they said Slammer series or something like that. Whereas the USA Hamers either just said Hamer, like this, or they would have a tiny little USA right after the R. Now the Slammers and the XTs, I think they were made in China, in Indonesia. This series came out in the late 90s, I believe, and these were made in Korea. I wasn't too interested in any of the Hamer import stuff when it was coming out. But I saw this at a Guitar Center here in town, and it caught my eye immediately. And the first thing I noticed was how open and resonant this thing is. The action was terrible. Of course, they just took it in, you know, on a trade or whatever, or the guy just sold it to a Guitar Center, and it looked like they didn't do a dang thing to it. They didn't even change the strings or nothing. The action was a little high. The frets were really dirty and had like green stuff on there and whatever. But other than that, the condition was great. It has a decent flame. It's kind of subtle and not at the same time. It doesn't look like that much, but if you start really digging in and getting it at the right angle, it's like, wow, there is some really cool flame happening here. But it's not a sunburst. It's just like this all one translucent honey finish or something like that. It did have all gold hardware on here. I'm not a big fan of gold hardware, so since, like I said, I only paid $350 for this, and that included an SKB hardshell case. Since I didn't have too much money into this, I went ahead and just took one of these sand blocks, these spongy sand blocks, and just took some of that gold off of there. So that's why the pickups look silver now. These, I spent about 2 minutes doing it. So you can there's still some gold on there. I just wanted to get most of the gold off of there. Tuners are still mostly gold. But this series, so you'll see the Made in Korea here, and then there was a sticker right above this that had the serial number. It was a white sticker with the serial number printed in black right on there. I took that off. If you find a Hamer that has that, these seem to be, how you say, the hidden gems, the diamonds in the rough, if you will. So I took it home, I changed the strings, cleaned up the frets. I did not touch the truss rod at all. I just lowered the bridge a little bit. And the thing plays like butter. So just like the guitar that started things off for Hamer, which was an Explorer, but with a maple cap and with binding, this is basically what we got going on. It's basically a Les Paul Special, double cut Les Paul Special, but with a carved figured maple top. And obviously it doesn't have the binding on the neck, but it does have it around the body. Now, one interesting thing about this, now some guitars, especially ones made in Korea, you'll see a scarf joint where you'll see a line here where this part of the guitar is a different piece and the neck is a different piece. This has something of a scarf joint, but you can see it. Here's where the line is, and it's angled this way. So only this top part of the headstock is that separate piece. So it's a different kind of scarf joint. They kind of moved it up here, but similar idea. But I've never really seen that, or at least never noticed that before. So the only thing I did change was this three-way switch. The one that they had was this really cheap thing, and it wasn't staying in. It would always flick back into the middle position. So I had to switch that out. So I put a much better one in here. I don't know, it's in all parts or something. It was like $30 retail. I didn't pay that, but it was a good one. It has it has Duncan designed pickups in here. I don't know the model, but they sound pretty good. It seems like the neck is slightly underwound, which is something Hamer used to do back in the day. They would underwind this pickup to get rid of the muddiness and to, you know, have more clarity. But then the bridge pickup here, very full. Now I'm just plugged straight into the Suhr head. I'm going to gain it up here. Still running the Line6 through the effects loop. But let's check out and see what this sounds like. Or hear what this sounds like, rather. Hamer, Studio Archtop, double cut. I see these out on the internet ranging. I still see some around 400, 450. Once in a while, you might see something pop up for a little less than that. But if you're in the market for a relatively inexpensive, high quality guitar that looks great, sounds great, feels great, this is a great model to be looking at. In fact, I think Hamer is one of those brands that are overlooked. I think more people are remembering them or discovering them. But even the USA Hamers, you can find a deal on one of those once in a while if you keep your eyes open. I know I sold mine really cheap, but now I got this, and I love it. Now, Joel Danzig, Paul Hamer's partner, he's making guitars also. He's got some team-built models, and he has a line that he builds himself, from what I understand. I just briefly took a look at those guitars, and they look pretty good. Yeah, they look really nice. Hamer's also making guitars currently as of 2017, and I think they're only doing imports. So there's no USA Hamers currently being made, but the models that are currently being made look really cool. They're more of the classic variety, but I'm not sure where they're being made. I have a feeling they're being made in China and Indonesia. I can't attest to the quality of those. I haven't tried one, but I am curious about those now. And those are selling new for, I think, starting at around $700. So they're about $700, $800. I don't know what's that going to do to the price of something like this. Is it going to drive it up or down? I guess only time will tell. But in the meantime, I'm glad I got one of these, and I'm glad that you spent your time with me today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that notification bell, share this video with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below. But as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.